What's going on? Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Live in the Tank with Keith Deyo and Aaron Hairston. As Keith gets ready to jump on here, I just want to do a quick check-in. How's everybody doing this afternoon, and how did everybody's weekend go? Hope you had a fantastic time with family and friends. Hope that your health is well, and hopefully you got some good fun in, right? And happiness, because honestly, happiness is something that we bring alive, right? Happiness is something that is our birthright, and it's our obligation to create realness, right? So what's going on, Stephanie? How you doing? George, what's going on? JP in the building. What's going on, guys? How we doing? Lisa? Awesome. Good to see you. And so we got a great topic for you today. You know, it's about being a no-limit person and really what that means. And we're going to go into it. We're going to start talking about what that means and how important it is that we become a no-limit person, and that we are full of gratitude, and that we realize that everything in our life is an opportunity. Everything. There is not 1 second that goes by in our life that we're not presented something. And how we look at it, right, is our karma, right? How we react to something is our karma. So we got to look at it and say, okay, what is it here that I need to learn? What is the message, right? And where is the opportunity? So here comes Keith. Go ahead and grab him on here. Let's go. Boom, boom. Go. All right, Keith's coming on.
No.
What's up, man? What's good, brother?
Everything's good. Let's go. It's Monday.
Boom. Let's go. Absolutely. So we're just talking about really being a no-limit person, and I think that we all need to kind of recheck where we're at right now in gratitude, because, again, one of the things that happened to me this morning is I woke up late, right? I grabbed my alarm clock, and I went back to bed with it. And, you know, that's something that happens every once in a while, because just, you know, unconsciously, my body says, no, I'm staying asleep, and no, you're not going to the gym this morning. You're going to rest because you have a long day ahead of you. And so I listen, I go to sleep, I wake up, and naturally, we get caught up in, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late, right? We get into that mindset, that scarcity mindset, I don't have enough time. And the cool thing is that because of the habits that I've created for myself, I didn't think about that. I stopped for a second, I took my deep breath, and I said, what is my first step? Plant my seeds, right? Before I start rushing around worrying about the time that I lost, which really, I just invested in sleep. That's what I did, right? I invested in sleep. I didn't lose any time. The time was well spent sleeping, and now I'm ready to rock and roll. And so I splashed my face with some water, got into some, gratitude, got into my planting of seeds, and now I'm ready to go, right? Now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go ahead and flex my tasks for the day. And so having gratitude and knowing that where I am right now is exactly where I wanted to be was a habit that I created so that I wouldn't have that scarcity mindset, right? And that today is perfect. Even though it may not have been the same way that Friday was or Thursday was or last Monday was, today was exactly the way it was supposed to be. And now it's up to me to react, appreciate it, take advantage of the opportunity, and move forward. So Keith, I'm really excited about this topic of being a no-limit person. And so can you bring us and frame what that really means?
Yeah, when you think about limits, those are the things that we place upon ourselves. That's the box we talk about, Aaron. When you're stuck inside that box, you don't have your box cutter with you. That's really, we all have moments like that. Some people live there, but most of us experience moments like that. And if you understand how to shift from one moment to another, then you will better understand how to get out of these things. You walk around with a box cutter, so make sure you never get stuck in that box for too long. Even if someone drops it on you, like you get distracted and all of a sudden things happen one way or another, and now you find yourself, you're like, oh, I caught myself. I need a pattern interrupt. And the pattern interrupt is you taking your box cutter and cutting a hole big enough to see what you were supposed to be doing and what you were capable of in the moment. And then now you can continue to cut the rest of the box out and step open. So when you think about the limits that are placed upon us, we have to look at all three phases. Right? It has to be a holistic approach. So you think about how am I living? How am I limitless in this moment mentally? How am I limitless in this moment spiritually? And then how am I limitless in this moment physically? And what am I aware of that's allowing me to gauge that? So we always talk about the testing and measuring and what am I doing? Am I becoming that transmitter, or am I becoming the receiver? And as I think about those things, I look at them in all three areas. So that spirituality, that mental, and then that physical. So we are the only people that can put limits on us. Even if you believe that you are improperly blaming somebody or something or some situation for your circumstance, we spoke about how important it is to not allow our circumstances to define us, or to not to allow our how to change our who. Right. Never let your circumstance change your name, right? So when you look at that, the only limits that even exist are the ones we place upon ourselves. So take sleeping in, right? When that sleeping in, the time when you slept in, you wake up and you have that pattern interrupt. You got that shot of adrenaline or the endorphin spike, and you're like, oh my God. What that is that's you not being aware of your environment for a split second, and then once you remember, oh yeah, I'm Aaron Hairston, right? This is who I am. No matter where I am, I'm here.
Right.
And so that's the important part. So when we can live that way, to remember, no matter where you are, you're there. That's it. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. And so when you live that way, what we can do is keep that cortisol down. We live in a cortisol craving society where the environment's almost designed to spike our cortisol levels and suppress our growth hormone. That's why so many people get sick, and that's why so many people are losing their hair, aging early. They're not being able to deal with toxicity. Their bodies, their coping mechanisms are off. And so when you do that, you're frying all the neurotransmitters in your brain. They're fried. They're just overloaded. So now as we think about living a limitless life or a limitless existence, it's really what are you going to do in the moments? Where is that mindset going to be in the moments? Where are you spiritually in the moment? And then where are you physically in the moment? And so when we identify the things that aren't limitless, when we aren't living that way, all that is fear of loss. Fear of loss is going to restrict us from living a limitless existence. So now that I set the table, right, for everybody, we've created this awareness. Now, what can you do to live a limitless life? So, Aaron, as you beautifully explained it, you woke up, immediately realized that, okay, this is exactly what I needed. This is life happening for me. Right. And you applied, what else could this mean? Until you got a response from whoever it is you tap into, right? You got the response you were looking for that made you feel the best. You did not stop asking the question, what else could this mean? Until you were able to feel your best. And now you are trained. So this happens subconsciously in your head and goes around. Now here's something that you didn't realize, right? Is as you did that, you didn't shoot me a text and say, hey, yo, Keith, I didn't wake up. That feeling in your gut, that's because I didn't wake up this morning and go train, right? So I felt something was off. I'm like, damn, I did me. Like, I understand my schedule shifted, but I thought I was in step. I thought I was getting those things done, but I still had that weird feeling. Right. And it wasn't until after I spoke to you today, but I didn't know what happened until just now. But it wasn't until I spoke to you today that I was like, oh, all right, it's good. And the feeling went away. It's really weird. So when you're tapped in, when you're in alignment with somebody else's energy like that, the ability to, like the Crimson Twins, right? Those Crimson Twins in G.I. Joe. That's really where you get that off feeling. You're like, so it's not always your feelings and sensations, the things you feel in your gut, those are not always for you. Right. Remember, they're not always there for you. They're there to create an awareness. It's like when you drive and you may have been speeding or you're driving and not paying attention. All of a sudden you see lights behind you and you get that spike. You're like, oh, all right. Sit up straight. Like, let me look straight. Or you see a cop, right? Yeah. It's a pattern interrupt to allow you to get back to it. And really be aware of every second in your life. Be aware of it, because every second you have is another second to be great. It's another second to do more. And that's the unlimited effect. There's no limits on us. Take the cap off. Start living like that. Think about like this, Aaron, is if somebody were to squeeze you as hard as they could, Dr. Wayne Dyer talks about that, someone squeezed you as hard as they could, what would ooze out of your pores? What would come out? Right? And would it ever stop? Think about that. Because there's going to be a lot of things that you hold inside that are you're going to have the ability to excrete, right? Or have squeezed out of you, right? And if you get wrung out, what's coming out? You get to choose. What's in there? What are you made of? What is every single cell made of? What's the energy you put in? and the energy that you have in your existence, so that when cells are being replicated, and they replicate quick, when cells are being replicated, what energy are you giving them as they're being born? Because that's going to be their pattern. That's going to be what they're going to understand, and that's going to be their limitless existence. And so, Aaron, you want to do a quick check-in?
Absolutely. So thank you, Keith, for that explanation, because really, being limitless has two different ways of looking at it, right? So some people can think of abundance in being, well, I don't have unlimited because I don't have unlimited resources, right? So people can look at it that way, or say, well, you know what? I don't have limits, right? Being a good way, meaning that I don't have anything that blocks me. So Dustin, thank you for chiming in here. He says the weekend was good, but his whole nutrition and exercise plan got kind of flipped and revamped. And so one of the things that I like to look at sometimes, Dustin, when that happens is, where was the emotional shift, right, that allowed you to make the decision, to go off track? Right. And was it something that allowed you some joy and happiness? Right. Was there some sort of opportunity there for you to, enjoy more of the moment because you included this, that, and the other thing? Right. So don't beat yourself up.
Aaron, as you asked that great question, it's the difference between influence and affluence. So were you influenced by something in your environment or someone? Or were you influenced by affluence, the affluence you felt that you had an abundance of, so that you could slip a little bit, so that you thought you could just get right back on track? And what happens is that habit's not strong enough, and it took you in another direction. So thinking about what you're talking about with Dustin, was it influence or affluence? Was it influence from an outside source or affluence from your source?
Right, absolutely. And so one of the things that Dustin comes back with, he says that he's been struggling, right, hard, but he can't stop. He realizes that he needs to get back on track. And so what we always like to remind people, Dustin, is that it's an 80-20 rule, right? So 80% of the time, stay on track, stay disciplined, right? And 20% of the time, celebrate the fact that you stayed on track for 80%, right? And so have a little fun, indulge a little bit, because, having healthy habits, right, is for a lifetime. If you decide that those habits are going to serve you to become better. The second you realize that those habits aren't serving you, now you start to shift it, but you don't want to put yourself into a stressful environment, because it's not going to be long lasting. It's going to be limited based on the way that you perceive whatever that struggle is, right? So you got to look at it as opportunity to say, okay, I had some fun, but I'm right back on track, and I enjoyed that fun because I'm always on track, right? So you had that pattern interrupt. Boston cream, yeah, I'm a big fiend for Boston cream. We had some donuts this weekend too, man. And so the cool thing, Keith, that we're talking about here is another experience that we had this weekend, where Trevor had an event that he had to go to, right? He was training some people, and it fell between the time where he couldn't be with the kids, right? So he needed to have somewhere for the children to go. So he texted me on Saturday night saying, hey, can I drop the kids off tomorrow around 11 o'clock? And I had told him, I said, well, we have church at 11. And he goes, okay, that's cool. And so quickly I let Leslie know, and Leslie starts panicking, right? Because now she's like, oh my gosh, we go from having 2 kids in church to having 4 kids in church, right? And so the whole perception of children in church, for some reason, is scary to people. But for me, I looked at it like, well, maybe this is the calling, right, for this moment to have the cousins together in church, and there's a message to be said. And she couldn't get out of that blockage, right? All she kept thinking was overwhelming busyness, and because the cousins, they get together, they want to play, right? And so that's the concept of what she was perceiving it's going to turn out to be. And I said, Leslie, I said, well, what is God telling us right now, right? He's given us an opportunity to bring all 4 kids, to mass tomorrow, and regardless of what we may think is going to happen, what he wants is this to happen, and so we have to do it. And then she, and I left it at that, right? I let her go through her emotional event, and then the kids came. Listen, Keith, it was so amazing. As soon as the kids get in seat, they're perfectly well behaved, amazing, right? And as I suggested, it was what we needed to hear. However, as soon as the homily starts, the pastor goes, all the children come up to the altar, please. Now, mind you, he hasn't done that in about a few months. Okay. Yeah. So he says, all the children come up to the altar, please, and come up and surround the altar. And so I looked at Leslie and I smiled, and she looked at me. She was like,
"They're supposed to be there."
I said, I get messages sometimes, Leslie, and I don't claim those messages. I'm just here to transcend them, right? And I'm just the messenger. And I looked at her, and she smiled, and then all the cousins went up, They sat down and the pastor was going over spring cleaning and how in spirituality we must also spring clean. And what did that mean for the children? And the kids was like, getting my bike out and changing the weather and, you know, going from long sleeve to short sleeve in school uniforms. And so it was so cool to have that moment happen and transpire. So see, what we were able to do is we were able to look past the event and look at the opportunity. And so in life, sometimes we may perceive the outcome based on something that we may have experienced or we've seen or heard experience from someone else. And we automatically say, oh my gosh, I don't want that, right? I don't like my pattern to be interrupted. I don't like a change in schedule. I don't like all these things. Hence the reason why I was a little out of whack, you know, when I woke up late, but then I quickly took it. So it's an opportunity. I'm well rested. I'm feeling good right now, right? And the same thing with that, bringing those children to church to have them at that moment, right? And then have that opportunity for him and to express some things that were important in spring training with Lent and everything with the children. It was awesome. And it was exactly what needed to happen. The kids came home. And here's the special thing about this, Keith. So Elijah tells me this morning, he goes, guess what, Daddy? And now, mind you, Elijah was there during this whole transition of Leslie's experience and me explaining maybe we need to do this. And Elijah goes, you know what, Daddy, guess what? And I said, what? He goes, you know, I went over to cousin's house after so you and mommy can do things around the house. And I was in the car driving, and an uncle asked Xavier and Christian, you know, how was church? And they said it was great. And he goes, Uncle goes, do you guys want to go to church next week? And they go, yes, we would love to as a family. And so Elijah goes, I guess you were right, Daddy. And I said, no. I said, it wasn't me. You know, I said, it was the message. And he just smiled. Right. And so here's a great experience of two opportunities that could have definitely been perceived to be disasters, right? For either my day this morning, starting off at a little late, right? Or yesterday having a transition of having 2 kids versus 4 kids in church, right? And so it's just a way to look at life and always being limitless, meaning that you are not allowing the limits of your beliefs to dictate how you're going to be today, because today's a brand new day. And so, Keith, I love this subject because honestly, it was truly inspiring just to see that and actually being able to recognize that, Keith, and knowing that, you know, looking at opportunity at all costs, no matter what's on the table, is really the goal.
Yeah, the ability to change focus and shift from one feeling, one experience to another. Understanding that if, like we spoke about last week, if emotions are truly your currency, well, are you broke or are you rich? Do you have an abundance of emotion that you do want to share and people want to absorb, or do you have a negative balance of emotion where people don't want to be around you? And it maybe it's a certain environment that triggers it that you need to go do some work on, or maybe it's something where you had something that you're not letting go of that's causing you to be in that negative balance. So when I listened to Tony Robbins yesterday, I was going through some of the files and I came across, or this expert came across me, and the message that I heard was, if you are suffering in any part of your life, we know that if there's suffering that your current life situation doesn't match your blueprint. Well, what a lot of people have trouble with then is, okay, well, now what? So at that moment, that's the time when when we get to take the advantage and say, okay, if suffering is the outcome and I don't like it, I don't want to feel this way, and the people around me don't want me to feel this way. It's not serving me and it's not serving others. So now I've got the suffering as the outcome, and the reason why is because my current life situation doesn't match my blueprint. So now we get to decide at that moment, is this the beginning or the end? And what am I willing to go to work to change? I either can change my current living situation, or I can go to work to change my blueprint. So if you see something where the outcome is consistently suffering when you go to a certain environment, or you get into a certain mood, or you wake up late, or stress and anxiety are risen, decide which one it's going to be. Am I going to change my current living situation, or am I going to change my blueprint? If it's something that's happening over and over and it becomes this emotional home where you feel limited and you feel like things are coming down around you and you just got this weight on your shoulders, you can't wait for it to go away. And maybe for some of you, that's the work week. You know, it kind of that's the later it gets to Sunday night.
Oh my God.
This pressure comes in, right? And Monday morning, wham, right? And then all of a sudden you feel the pressure start to build all week, and it kind of gets a little bit lighter on Friday, but Monday it's right back there. Sunday night's right back. Well, then now we've got to take a look at that, and we understand that that's now become a habit. Now your body is used to feeling that way, and so it becomes familiar. No matter how bad it is, you've got this limited flavor of the month that you are addicted to now. This is a habit. This is an addiction. So go back, identify what 3 emotional needs are being fulfilled in that situation or in that environment, and decide, all right, if this is the way I'm wired, what 3 things are being satisfied here? How can I make them go from a negative to a positive? And which one do I have to change? My current life situation or my blueprint? Both of them are going to take work, and both of them are not going to be done alone. Right. That's why we do this. That's why we reach out. That's why we've created this community of people that are seekers and servers. Reach out to somebody and do the work together. We can all endure more pain than we can as a group than we can as an individual. So that's really where we can take our limited situations, the times when we feel limited the most and as helpless the most, and transfer them in to what we do when we're unlimited, and how we can take all 3 phases, that spiritual unlimitedness, or that are limitless, that mental limitless, and that physical limitless. And that's why we want to tie this all together. And if there isn't somebody in your immediate environment and you're hearing this for the first time, or you're going back and listening to this, remember, you've got 1 and you've got 2 people minimum that are willing to help. We get calls for help all the time. We have people reaching out to us all the time. Yep. And we'll take you back to ground zero. We'll show you what rock bottom either looks like, or we'll advise you that, hey, rock bottom is now. But either way, we need to see where rock bottom is, so we understand that we've got a strong foundation. We've got something we can push against, and let's grow through it. Because the storm is going to pass, right? That's something that we have to remember. And so we're never truly limited. The only limits we have is that we put this on ourselves. And you know, I love Michelle, Paxton set the tone for this today, so he's in here stretching. He didn't want to be a distraction or jump on, but he really set the tone for this, and this is where this all came from. He got us started off pretty early.
Awesome. And so thank you, Pax. So Michelle says here that she always tries to think positive and talk positive first, then we'll adjust any negative thoughts, anything that's forming. And so, you know, Michelle, this morning, so my wife, right, she was also affected by my schedule, right? Because normally when I wake up at 5 a.m., I'm at the gym, I'm getting home, right? I'm waking the children up, I'm ironing the clothes, I'm getting things ready so that she can focus on her. However, this morning we had to both focus on, the children, which was a hindrance to her. And so I took on the bulk of it, and I saw her quickly going to her phone and quickly responding to text messages from work before she got into her liturgy, before she got into her Bible, before she got into anything in her pattern that's going to protect her and that's going to put that armor all on, right? So no matter how hot the sun gets, it's going to keep shining, right? So I quickly reminded her, I said, don't check your phone. I said, don't do that. And so I'm just subliminally going, and she looks at me and she goes, she's huffing and puffing, and she's getting all worked up. And I had just kept dripping to her. I said, honey, I said, stay with the pattern. I said, listen, I said, no matter what the external, the internal needs to start the same way as always. The engine must be warmed up. You can't just get into a frozen car and just take off. I said, you're asking for the worst situation to happen, right? Not including that you're freezing in the car, right? So warm the car up, get it going. Get the juices flowing, get the fluids in there, right? And then take off. Down some water, get your shake in, get your breakfast in. There's nothing pending, death-threatening that you have to get to right there. Not on Facebook, not in text messages, not in email, none of that. The most important thing is what you set in here and in here first, every single day, right? No matter what time you start, you must follow the process. And Keith, this is a perfect example of going ahead and thinking, okay, well, you know what? If my day is starting like this, and that means that I have to recognize it, adjust it, and make sure that I get back into my pattern, the one that I know serves me, the one that makes me the most productive, the one that makes me most effective, and the one that makes me whole, right? We talk about circulating energy, right? And just shifting. You know, you got to do it. And if you don't do it and you allow everything else to do it for you, you're now living in an unknown place. Right? And unknown and uncomfortable and unknown is two different things. Uncertainty and unknown are two different things.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we just want to remind you that we are human, right? And we all are going through our experiences, and we're perfectly made. And so as we come up with these you know, these episodes, you know, of In the Tank, and we're so thankful for all of the feedback that we're getting from you all, because this is something that we're creating as a community to be able to support each other in their dreams, and supporting each other to become the best version of themselves, because we are all made perfect and we have everything we possibly need inside of us. And if we can't appreciate that, then we don't need any more. Just like Dr. Zaire says, we don't need any more, because we won't appreciate that either, right? So appreciate what you have right now and really fully understand what that means, so that when you do get more, then you'll appreciate all of that as well. All right? So with that being said, Keith, is there anything else you want to say in closing?
Let's go. let's get this Monday kicking, right? Let's do it. Second half.
So, you know, for all the people that chimed in today,
it.
Lisa, thank you so much. Michelle, exactly. Thank you. You needed that. I needed it too. So thank you so much. And starting off with gratitude for all of you that chime in here every single afternoon, Monday through Friday, in the tank, so we can get ready our halftime speech, get back out there and crush the second half. We want to thank all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of individuals that will see this on replay. Continue to share it, continue to comment, continue to reach out to us, so that we may include whatever story you have for others to hear, so that that value can get spread throughout the world. God bless y'all. Let's crush this Monday. Let's make it happen, guys. God bless.